Welcome all to the weekly outlook. Boone here from EWPRO. Getting straight into the weekly outlook. Starting with the DXY on the daily. We got that WXY X2 and we got that Z down. We had that bear hidden there, so we're looking for this Z down. It has gone on. This wave Z has gone down and broken that low. So it can be over at any time. Ideally, it gets down to this 161.8. But it may be finished here on the H4, sort of getting this bullish divergence on the H4. We don't have a bear hidden here, so this may go and break the low, or it may go from here. So, you know, if you got a breakout of this little channel here, you could look for a buy setup and look for the buy. On the H1, there really isn't any setup. The H1, we do have a bear hidden, so this may come down and break the low one more time, and then any buy setup, you could look for the buy. Like I said, on the H4, you really want to break out of this channel here, and then, you know, give you a buy setup. That's the safest way to buy this at this stage, as this may come down and break that low. AU on the daily. You can see that this is looking very corrective in here. Nothing's changed since last week. We're looking for that A. We're looking for a B in here and a C down, and then we get that larger A, B, C. So I'm more bearish. On the H4, I've got it written, I've got it labeled as a complex correction, but like I've mentioned, it can be just an A, B, C, and that's the end of the move, and we go down from here, or it becomes more complex as like a W, X, Y, X2, and a Z up. On the H1, it's we had a bull hidden here. It never went up and broke the top. Instead, we got that deep correction, like I mentioned last week. I said, if the bull hidden doesn't play out, we'll at least get a deep correction. We got that deep correction, didn't go up and break the top. Now it's looking quite bearish in here. You can really only sell this. So you'd be looking for any sell setup. Yeah, it's not really ready yet. You'd need another one up here, and then any sell setup, you could look for a sell to go and break this low. Ideally, it goes and breaks this low over here. And on the daily, it may get down to that 161.8 or the 123.6. EU on the daily. So we're looking at that A and A, B, C. So I'm looking for this C down here to finish off this B wave, and then we get that A, B, C. On the H4, it is starting to look very bearish here. We've got this bearish divergence. We got all this bearish divergence now. We're getting a bearish looking flag in here, or correction. So this is a good a good chance to be able to get in at the top of the market once we get a setup here. We'll just draw a quick trend line here. So we'd be looking for, you could either go down, ideally you'd go down onto the lower time frames and look for your sell setup, or you could wait for the breakout and a bearish flag in here to sell. I should put the $100 fib on. Give us a target. So we'll be looking for this 100 fib. This is what I'd be targeting. That 100 fib, the 105.30 area. GU, like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, you know, this can be an A, B, C, D, and we get an E down in here, and then we get the A, B, C. So we get an expanding triangle in here. Excuse me. Again, like EU, we're starting to get this bearish setup here on the H4. We got all that bearish divergence, and we're starting to get a bearish setup here. This one does have a ball hidden. This low here wasn't broken, so it may go and break that top. Not really expecting it to, but it may. If I don't get a sell set up and it goes and breaks the top, I'm not looking for the buys. I'm only looking for the sells. So if it does go up and break the top and gives us a sell setup, I'm only looking for the sells up here with all that bearish divergence. H1, you can see it doesn't look to be ready. We got some sort of a B, and we get a C up, and then we look for a sell setup. So we'll be looking for a sell setup up around here somewhere on the lower time frames to look for that sell next week. NU on the daily. This really hasn't changed since last week. I'm looking at that A, B, we get that C down in here, and then we get an A, B, C. Up to this 100 fib. This 100 fib here will change depending on how low this goes. But I believe it's going to become more complex. The H4, we got that A, B, C in here, and then we're looking for that A, B, C. We do have this, a lot of these pairs have got this impulse up here. So we may get like 1, 2, 3 impulse up as some sort of a running or expanding flat, and then we get the A, B, C. So we may get a little bit of upside. We may get a sharp move up here for that flat before we get more downside. I don't believe we may have a little bit of bullish divergence in here. So if you wanted to scalp a buy, you probably could. I'm more interested in the sell because we're at the top of the market. The H1 as well, you know, we do have that bullish divergence. You'd really want a nice impulse up, breaking that top, giving you a flag or a correction in here, and then you could look for the C up like an A, B, C for that H4 flat, and then you'll be looking for the sell. This one here you can miss. It's this one here that you don't want to miss. GY on the daily. This is very difficult because we can't really buy until this top here is broken. This is looking very corrective to me. There is no bearish divergence in between the two tops here, which makes it a little bit difficult to sell as well. It's not giving the sell setups that's a problem. So I'm looking at that WXY, this as a larger correction, and then we get some sort of a WXY in here, and then we get an A, B, C, and go and break that top. There is a chance that this just goes up from here, and this is just, that's the end of the correction. I don't really like that, and I can't really trade that because this is looking too corrective to buy. Really need, if I go down onto the lower time frame, we got that WXYX2 and we got that Z up. We did lose all the bearish divergence in this wave Z up. In this last part here between the last two legs, you know, we do have that bearish divergence. This may turn into a flat as an A, B, C in here, as a running or expanding flat, and then we get an A, B, C in this wave Z. Like I showed on the daily, we don't have any bearish divergence. So it's more than likely we'll get a flat in here, and then more upside. Yeah, at this stage, this low here wasn't broken, so we do have a bull hidden here. It's not valid to trade, but more than likely it will go up and break that top. I'm really more interested in the sells than the buys. You know, looking at the larger time frame, like I showed, all this is looking corrective on that daily. So it's very difficult to buy. Well, it's not difficult to buy, it's risky to buy. But, you know, we do have that bull hidden here. So if you went down onto the lower time frames, you'd be looking for a correction, and then a buy just to go and break that top. We sort of got 1, 2, 3 here. Then we get that A, B, C, and more upside like the A, B, C. So it looks like the upside isn't over just yet. I was really hoping that this would come down, break that low, give us a bearish setup, and then we can look for the sell. That hasn't happened, so at this stage. UY on the daily, nothing's really changed since last week on the daily. We got that A, B, C, looking at that to finish off this B wave, and then we get the A, B, C before we get the larger A, B, and C down. Again, this is looking very corrective, like the GY. So it's very difficult to buy. We are getting bearish divergence here. On the H1, is there a sell setup? Yes, there is a sell setup. You can only sell this. We got that bearish divergence here. Look, this at the impulse down, we get an A, some sort of a B, you get a C up, and then any sort of sell setup you get, you'd be looking for that one down as an A, B, C. Unfortunately, it hadn't really given us a correction in here. I would have liked this in here and then give a correction, more of a correction. Instead, we got that impulse up, so you will have to be quite careful before you look for that sell. You know, USD CAD. So nothing's really changed on this one either on the daily. We had those, if you look last week, we had those two scenarios. Either this is just an A, B, C, and it drops from here, or if I zoom out a bit, like I've been mentioning for months and months and months, we're looking for a correction similar size to this over here. So going back to the H4, well, the daily, so we can get that WXY, X2, like I said last week, we can bounce off this trend line and give us another one up for a WXY, X2 and a Z up. That looks like what's going to happen. We've got to bounce off that trend line and it's going up. So more than likely we'll get that wave Z up before we get the A, B, C to fill in the time factor, and then we can look for a buy over here. H4, we had that bullish divergence actually on that daily. On the daily, we had that bullish hidden. We got that bullish hidden here. This low didn't go and break that low, so this can go up and break that top. Excuse me, like I'm expecting. We got that bull hidden there. So even if this doesn't go and break the top, it'll give a very deep correction. So H4 is looking nice. We're just waiting for a correction. We got that bullish divergence. We got a nice impulse up. Wait for your correction in here on the H1, and then look for that buy to go and break that top. So this will be a nice trade next week on the H1, very similar to H4. This one does have a correction in it. We got an A, a B, or a WXY, and we'll be looking for an X2, and then you could look for that Z up. If you're going to trade the Z up, you'll have to get it to break even, because after the 5 up in here, we'll usually get a larger correction. Get some sort of an A, B, C, and then we get that larger A, B, C to go and break the top on the daily. Oh, sorry, on the H4 for that Z up. So yeah, you can either wait for the larger correction, a H4 correction, or trade the Z up. Yeah. The Swissy on the daily. So we're looking at the A, B, C. This is 100 fib down here. So it still has a little bit more room to go down. We do have that bullish divergence. So I'm only looking for buys. I don't really want to go against that. Don't really want to go against that divergence. Again, this one has, like many of the other pairs, we got that impulse up in here. So sort of looking at an A, a B, and we get a C up, like I've got it drawn here up to that 100 fib, that white 100 fib. So looking for one up in here, up to that 100 fib, and then we get like an A, a B, and a C down. On the H1, you can see what I'm looking at. It's not going. I'm looking at a flat in here, like an A, B, C as an expanding flat. It's still not going. So I'm looking for an A, B, C, at least up to the 100 fib, up to this 100 fib. it's not even going on the H1, so I'd be staying out of it until it becomes clear, because I've been looking for a buy setup on this in here, and I keep on getting taken out. So need a nice setup in here. You'd have to go down to the lower time frames and look for your buy setup. I first would be targeting this 100 fib. EG on the daily. So this is becoming really complex in here. I'm looking for like an A, B, C. I was looking at that as the flat, and then we get the A, B, and a C down in here. But instead we got this in here. So it's making it quite difficult. It's not going. On the H4, it still has a chance. We got that. Until that broken there, you can't really buy this, on the H4. Looking at that W, X, Y, X2, and a Z down, it's very corrective. Whatever's happening in here, it's very corrective for upside. Whether this is the end, whether this is the end of the correction, I don't believe it is. But yeah, so we'll get this one down, and then we get the A, B, C to finish off the B wave on the daily. It's becoming quite difficult to trade. If we have a look on the H1 to see if we got a higher high here, no, we didn't quite get a higher high. So, excuse me, very difficult to trade. You can really only buy, but yeah, I would be staying out of it. It's really not clear, and this here is looking very corrective. It's very flat, so it's very difficult to buy. It's extremely risky to trade at this stage. WTI. So we're looking at that WXY. You could either look at it as an X2 and a Z down, or I'm looking at it more as a WXY, A, B, C as a larger correction, flat, and then we get like an A, B, C. This one did bounce off that 100 fib, which I've taken off. For this flat in here, A, B, C, we got to bounce off the 100 fib. So it is looking very, very much bearish. Yeah, on the H4, we do have a bull hidden here. That's the problem. We may get another one up here. We got a bull hidden here. So if you get a bearish setup in here, you can look for it. Actually, I'll go down to the lower time frame, so we can see what's going on. If you get a bearish setup in here, you can look for it, but it'll only be like an A, B, C. And then if you get a buy setup after you get bullish divergence in between this low and this low, and you get a bullish setup, well, then you can buy it to go and break this top for that bull hidden. You can't really buy it until you get this, this three-wave structure and this here to buy this. Otherwise, it's very risky. If you get the sell in here, you can look for that sell, just for a C down. And if you're lucky, it may keep on going and break the low, and the bear hidden doesn't, the bull hidden doesn't play out. So yeah, looking at gold on the daily, You know, we're looking for that wave Z up. This is an X2 on the weekly, and we're getting that Z up on the weekly. So ideally it does go and break that top, because if it goes and breaks this top here, it's going to be a great sell, you know, at the top. On the H4, nothing's really changed since last week. It's it's not really playing very nicely. I'm looking for an A, a B, and a C. It's come down to this 100 fib a couple of times. We do have a bull hidden here, so you can only look for the buy as an A, B, C. So we're not getting the buy set up, unfortunately. It was looking promising. You know, over here we got a nice impulse up, but it just comes straight back down. It didn't give us a nice correction. You know, we're only looking for a correction and then a buy. Instead, prices come straight back down. So this is more like an A, B, C, and then you get that A, B, C, and then you get a larger A, B, C to finish off this move in here, and then we get the bullish like that bull hidden plays out. Unfortunately, it's not. There's really no setup to buy it just at this stage. Looking at silver. So on the weekly, on the weekly, we got that W, X, Y, X2, and we can get a Z down. But on the daily, we lost the bearish divergence between these two tops. So I'm just looking for a correction in here and then more upside. The H4, we may get a sell set up here. This is looking very bearish here. We got a nice impulse up. This is starting to look bearish in here. If you get a sell set up, I'd be looking for a sell down to this 50 fib. First targeting that 50 fib. And then I dare say I'd be looking for the buy, you know, over down here. I don't believe there's a setup on it. That's the problem. It's sort of got 1, 2, 2, 3 down in here. 1, you know, oh, my pen. But getting some sort of a flat in here for an A, B, C. Really need another one up in here, and then give us a nice sell setup on the lower time frames to sell. I'm just going to so really looking for a sell, one up here, a nice impulse down, and then a sell setup. Then we can look for a sell. It's not very nice. You know, it's a very difficult looking correction. So you'll have to be careful. Looking at Bitcoin. So we got that 1, 2, 3 down, and then I'm looking for an A, a B, and a C. I'm still looking at this as a expanding flat. In this last piece, we can get a W, X, Y. We can get an X2 in here, and then a Z up to finish off this flat. And then we'll be looking for downside. Is this the end here, and we go and break the low? Well, it's possible, but you can only sell it at this stage. Like I said last week, we had that bearish divergence. You can only really sell it. I'm not looking for any buy setups. Here we do have a lower low here by the look of it. The problem is, again, if I go to the H1, we got this news event here that gave us this spike. So you'd be really looking for a correction, and then you could look for a sell. Until you got this, you can't sell it, you know. It may give you a nice sharp move up like this, an A, and look at this as a B, and then a C up as a running or expanding flat. Will more than likely be a running flat. And then you could look for a sell up in here as well. But we need some sort of correction before you can look for the sell at this stage. S&P, so nothing's changed on this. You know, we're looking at that A, B, C up to that 100 fib. H4, I'm still looking for this correction in here. We're looking at a W, X, Y, A, B, C. We're looking for this C down here. We're looking for a similar size correction as the X1 as the X2, and then we'll be looking for that Z up. It may just about be ready. Let's see what's happening on the H1. It's not the best, but this is looking very corrective here. And really need a buy setup. The only way to buy this is, if I zoom in a bit, at this stage you have to be careful because we've got some sort of an A, B, C in here. So we get an A, B, C. So this may come up here to around the trend line and then fall over on you and give you another one down. Wherever this ends, you need a nice impulse up, breaking that trend line and giving you a nice buy setup before you can look for that buy for that wave Z up on the H4. Yeah. AU 200, very similar to S&P. Looking at that, if I zoom in a bit. So we're looking at that A, B, B, C, and then we get that A, B, C up to that 100 fib. We've got this nice impulse up here. So we're looking at a WXY. I dare say we'll get a bull hidden in here. We'll get that bull hidden in here, and then we can look for more upside. Until we get the bull hidden, it's very risky to buy. I'll just put the fib on. So, you know, it can come down to this 38.2. And it may be very slow coming down here like it is. So you're going to have to be very patient with it before you can look for the buy. So, yeah. The FTSE's very similar on the day on the H1, you know. We got that like WXY. We've already got the 38.2 on this one. So we're looking for that retracement, you know. Until we get that, it's very difficult. You pretty much leave it alone until we get this correction. I mean, if you're looking for a sell, you really got to go down onto the lower time frames. You can definitely sell this because, you know, we have all this bearish divergence. So if you did get a sell on the lower time frames, that'd be great, you know, and you'd be targeting that 38.2. And it's the same with the AU200. Looking at the DAX, this one's kept on going. So if we look at this one here on the H4, it's actually given the correction. We got A, B, C in here as the flat, and we got that W, X, Y, X2, and we're getting that Z up. We will be getting bearish divergence in here. So it's just broken the top, and as you can see on the H1, we're getting all this bearish divergence as well. So I'd really be looking for a sell on this. We're getting that bearish divergence. For the sell, you really need a nice impulse down, breaking this low, giving you a bearish setup, and then you could definitely look for that sell. So I hope you all enjoyed the weekly outlook. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you out there next weekend.